If you're making a move to coastal Georgia, then there are two different counties that you might be considering, and that's Glynn County and Camden County. And today we are going to talk about the differences between those two counties, because while they are similar, they offer a little bit of a different vibe, and you have different amenities, I guess you should say, within close proximity to each of those counties. So if you are relocating to coastal Georgia based on a job relocation, or just you want a slower pace of life, whatever it is, whatever your reason is to relocating to coastal Georgia, let's explore these two different counties to make sure that you don't move to the wrong one. Hi, I'm Cassie Long with Horizon Realty, and I help individuals and families just like you relocate right here to coastal Georgia. So if you're thinking of making a move, all of my information is down in the description box below. I would love to hear you and help you find a home here in coastal Georgia. First, let's talk about Glynn County. Glynn County is located on the beautiful coastline here in Georgia, and it encompasses Brunswick, which is the mainland of Glynn County. And then you've also got St. Simon's Island, which is probably the most widely known in Glynn County. And then you also have Sea Island, which is on St. Simon's Island, and you have Jekyll Island. And that is what makes up Glynn County. Now, Glynn County is actually large if you look at it from a geographical standpoint. It's pretty large, but you still have that warm, cozy, small town feel. And that is one of the things that most people, when they relocate down here to Georgia, love about living in Glynn County, is that small town feel. Now, another thing that you might love about it is widely known for golf. We have a ton of golf courses here, especially on St. Simon's Island. Brunswick has a few as well, but St. Simon's Island is just golf central. We actually host RSM Classic here on the island. Davis Love has built many of the golf courses here, and he has a home on St. Simon's Island. So it is just all centered around golf here in Glynn County, but St. Simon's specifically. So there are no shortage of golf course living, and if that is your style, and kind of riding around on golf carts, driving it, down the road to the beach, if that is your style, then you will love St. Simon's Island. So there are many perks to living in Glynn County, but there is a difference between living on St. Simon's Island, living in Brunswick, living in Jekyll Island. They all offer a little bit of a different vibe. And if you've watched any of the other videos on my channel, I go into the pros and the cons of each of those areas. And most of those areas, St. Simon's and Brunswick in particular, I do have map tour videos where I actually take you through the map on the computer so that you can get a better understanding location-wise and what's around in those areas. Because one great thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, in comparison of Glynn County and Camden County, Glynn County is a little bit more northern. Camden County borders Florida, so it's a little bit more southern, just, on the map. They're about 30 minutes away in distance, depending on where you live, of course. Being neighboring counties, you can be 5 minutes, from the other county, or you could be about 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I would say, is about the max, maybe 45 minutes. But anyway, depending on the main difference for me, and this is speaking from somebody that lived in Glynn County when we first moved here and now lives in Camden County, the main difference is the access to quote unquote amenities. And I say amenities, I mean like everyday restaurants and things to do. So if you have kids, I have 2 kids. One is 6 and one is, I don't know, like a year and a half, somewhere in that weird range of 1 year and a year and a half. But living in Brunswick, there are trampoline parks, there's indoor bounce house places, all those things that us moms really love and need when it's raining and our kids are insane feral animals inside the house and we need to get outside and we can't access the beautiful beaches. One of the big draws to living on Georgia's coast is you have access to all these amazing outdoor things like the beach. You have walking trails. I'm not gonna say hiking because this isn't North Georgia, but you have state parks, you've got swamp areas, you've got marsh, you've got all these beautiful outdoor things, and you can really experience Georgia's nature. And it's a great learning experience for kids, and the kids love it. But then it rains and you don't know what to do. So one of the main differences for me is Glynn County is going to offer a lot more indoor activities. You know, downtown, they just restored one of the old buildings and put a really nice hotel there, and they have a rock climbing gym in there. So you can do that. That's great for kids. There's Salt Air Studios, which is a yoga studio, and they do kids aerial yoga. My daughter loves that. And they have like a fun sensory playroom thing. And then there's Pinball Palace, great for boys too. And they have a bunch of old pinball machines and arcade game type things. And there's the bowling alley, and there's lots of indoor, I'm not gonna go into everything, but there's lots of indoor activities, which when we moved here almost 7 years ago, there were like none of those. And coming from outside of Atlanta, that was probably our biggest gripe moving to Glynn County was, what in the world are we gonna do? Like, what do we do? What do people do on the weekends when you're not going to the beach? Because while the beach is fun, it's, you gotta have other things to do. And again, like I said, if it rains, you need other activities. But now Brunswick has really grown so much, and there are tons of things to do. And of course, on St. Simon's Island, there's a fair amount of things to do with the kids, tons of parks, tons of playgrounds. Again, outdoor, there's no short supply of outdoor activities. We've talked about where Glynn County is located. Now we're gonna talk about where Camden County is located, and then I'll kind of circle back to the differences between the two. I got a little off track there, forgive me. I like to just talk about the areas, I get so excited. So Camden County is located just below Glynn County. So it actually borders the Florida line. So if you were all the way down south, so Camden County starts where it borders Glynn County, is going to be a town called Waverly, which is very, very small. You're gonna get like woods and hunting tracks and like one gas station per exit. There's only 2 exits of Waverly, and there's not a store. There's a Dollar General and a bunch of just property. So if you long for that homestead life, you want acreage, you want chickens, you want to bring, you know, free range kids, you want all that stuff, you might consider Waverly. You can get property for, you know, a little bit more affordable than being in Glynn County. Anyway, we're talking about location. We're not talking about the different parts. So Waverly, and then you go down and there's Woodbine, very similar to Waverly, but you're gonna have a little bit more amenities. There is a Dollar General in Woodbine. And then after Woodbine, you are going to then enter into Kingsland, and that's where you're really gonna find many more amenities. There's gonna be Publix in Kingsland. There's going to be little restaurants, you know, chain restaurants and things like that. And also, you know, some small owned family restaurant businesses. And then you get into St. Mary's, and that's where like the waterfront is, and that's where the ferry is to go over to Cumberland Island, and you can go camping and all of those things. So hopefully now you have a good picture of kind of where, you know, Glynn County starting in the mainland, kind of in the center, wrapping around the barrier islands, and then it comes down, and then back into the center is where you start back with like Waverly and working its way back down the coastline to Woodbine, Kingsland, and then all the way down south in St. Mary's, back on that coastline again. So that's kind of geographically the difference between the two. But back to kind of pros and cons of both, you are going to have many more amenities living in Glynn County than you are living in Camden County. But Camden County is much closer to Jacksonville, which is a much larger city, which is going to give you many, 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 many more amenities. Like I said, we live in Camden County, and we are about 40 minutes from the Jacksonville International Airport, which is huge. And then we're very close. You know, it takes it's 40 minutes to the Jacksonville Zoo, and also it's about an hour to get into downtown Jacksonville, so we can go to Jacksonville Jaguars games, you know, any of those larger sporting events, concerts, anything like that. There's Jacksonville Town Center, so if we want to really just go in on some shopping, we're very close to that. Whereas in Glynn County, you know, depending on where you are, you're gonna add like 20-30 minutes maybe, so an hour and a half. Still not a bad commute to Jacksonville for a day trip or anything like that. But that's really going to be the difference between the two. Another big difference is probably affordability. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you can find more land for an affordable price in Camden County than you can in Glynn County. And again, that's just due to it not being quite as developed as Brunswick, and definitely not on St. Simon's Island. If you want acreage on St. Simon's Island, you can get an acre. on the north end of the island, but you are going to pay for that acre. You're going to be in at least $1 million mark. And that again is only going to be available on the north end of the island. You're not going to find it on the south end of the island. That's where most of the tourism is. And again, if you do get that acre, it's going to come with a hefty price tag. Whereas, you know, in Waverly, Woodbine, even Kingsland, and possibly St. Mary's, you can have an acre or more and be within, you know, a much lower affordable price range, you know, 300 to 600,000, just depending on the style of home. And you still have the opportunity for marsh front. So another main difference, you know, we've got the intercoastal waterways running just all throughout every single area here on Georgia's coastline. But in Camden County, you do not have direct beach access like you do in Glynn County. Now, Glynn County, you have to be on one of the islands. You have to be on St. Simon's Island or Jekyll Island to have that beach access. Both of those have a causeway to get onto the islands, and then you have your beach access. Now, if you live in Camden County, depending on where you live in Camden County, we are in North Camden County, so we are still closest to Jekyll Island or St. Simon's Island. Takes us 30 minutes to get to the beach. Not a bad drive at all. But if you are in like South Camden County, then you are more than likely going to be closest to Fernandina, which is in Florida. Great beach. Downtown Amelia is, or downtown Fernandina, it's Amelia Island, Fernandina Beach. You know, we can use them interchangeably. But you are going to be closest to that beach, and that is probably about 35, 40 minutes, depending on where you are in South Camden. So that's going to be the difference. You do have the waterfront in St. Mary's, where you can hop on that ferry to go over to Cumberland Island. You can do all the outdoor recreational activities, you know, so that's not in short supply. So outdoor recreation activities you're going to find in both counties: fishing, boating, camping, walking trails, parks, you know, nature enthusiast stuff. But then the main difference is just that access to amenities. You know, Camden County doesn't have a Target, for instance. They have a Walmart and a Publix and a Winn-Dixie and a couple boutiques here and there. But other than that, they don't have very many shops, whereas Brunswick has a TJ Maxx, there's a Home Goods, there's a Sam's Club, there's a Chipotle, there's a, you know, there's all of these things available within Glynn County. Whereas Camden County, you might have to drive over to Yulee to get to Target and things like that. So those are the main differences of living in Glynn County versus living in Camden County. Now, one of the reasons we get a lot of job relocations here is because FLETC is located in Brunswick, which is in Glynn County, and then we have the Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base, which is located in St. Mary's in Camden County. So one interesting thing, and I'll leave you with that because I've been rambling this whole video, but one interesting thing is I get a lot of calls of people that are relocating here to work at FLETC, and they start, you know, looking at the area and they decide to live in Camden County and drive to FLETC. And then on the other hand, I get a lot of people that are relocating here to work at Kings Bay Naval Base, and they choose to live in Camden County and not Glynn County. Why that is, I don't know. It could be that Camden County ranks a little bit higher in terms of schools. It could just be location-wise, privacy, affordability. You know, there are many reasons and factors that go into it. Like I said, your dollar is going to stretch a little bit further in Camden County. And don't get me wrong, there are some luxury exclusive neighborhoods where you got to spend a good chunk of money. But again, if you're looking for that privacy and a little bit of acreage, you're going to find that in Camden County for a more affordable cost than you would Glynn County. But that's just something to consider, that I do get a lot of people that choose to live in Camden County, even if they work in Glynn County, but I don't get as many people that work in Camden County but choose to live in Glynn County, for instance. I do get some that choose to live on St. Simon's Island and work in Camden County, but not necessarily Brunswick. So anyway, that's just a little experience tidbit for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit scattered, but if you want to learn more about living in these different areas, I'm going to link a playlist right here and you can just binge watch those videos. And again, just reach out to me if you have specific questions. All my contact information is down in the description box below. I'm happy to help you and your family, or you make that move to coastal Georgia if that's the right move for you.